Okay, this is a lesson 11-2, and we are on page 474 in your textbook. We skipped lesson 11-1 because we've already talked about similar figures, and that's really what lesson 1 is about, how figures are similar by angles or by corresponding angles being equal and by the sides, the length of the sides being proportional. So because of that, you've already done that. We're going to move on then to lesson 2, which is transformations. Now, a transformation changes a figure into another figure, and the new figure is then called an image. Those are important vocabulary words. But this is even probably the most important statement, okay? A translation is a transformation, a change, in which a figure slides but does not turn. So every point on the figure moves the same distance and the same direction. So it's not going to flip, it's not going to get larger or smaller, it's not going to rotate, it's just going to be the same exact direction, same exact shape, just moved either to the right, to the left, to the right and left, to the right and up, to the right and down, to the left and up, to the left and down. That is what is a translation, okay? Or you may have called it a slide in 6th grade, but the correct term is translation. Okay, so if you look at these first two examples here, you have example A and example B. Example A just slides to the right and up, so therefore it is a translation because it just slides. It just slides to the right, and then it also slides up, okay? This one, B, is not a translation, okay? It's not a translation because it flips, or it turns, it rotates, it changes its direction. So therefore, it is not a translation. Okay, so what I would like you to do is pause your computer, and I would like you to do 1, 2, and 3, telling me if it's a translation or not, and why it is or is not. And then when you're done pausing your computer, you can come back. Okay, so number 1, is number 1 a translation? No, it's not. And it's not because it is the figure increases in size. And that can't happen in a translation. It can't, your figure or your shape is going to remain exactly the same size. Number 2 is also not a translation. It's not a translation because it flips, okay? And a translation, again, is in the same direction. And then number 3, yes, number 3 is a translation. Why? Because it moves, we're going from red to blue, so it moves up, and it moves to the left, up and left, or left and up, okay? Okay, so looking at a translation and how we do so if you got those right, you can move on. And I think you probably did. It's not too difficult. The next portion, or the next piece that we're going to do, is doing it in a coordinate plane, which is normally, you know, almost all of the time when you do translations, rotations, and reflections, which are the terminology you use in 8th grade math and 7th grade math, we normally do them on a coordinate plane. So this tells you in words what you do on a coordinate plane, okay? So you're going to translate A units horizontally and B units vertically in a coordinate plane. So you add A, the units for the left and right, you add that to your X coordinate, and B, your units to go up and down, you add that to your Y coordinate, to the vertices of each piece, and that will then make your translation. This is how you do it mathematically, okay? And I like mathematically because, like when we were doing slope, there's no question as to what you're doing. So this is the formula you kind of use. If you have, in this situation, if you have X and Y, okay, and this is kind of a big deal because if X is this way, right, okay, if you go just that way, and your points here, you're not adding units, being more positive, you are subtracting units. So if you go that way, you're going to subtract. If on the x, and this is for x only, oops, this is only for x. If you go that way to the left, you are then adding to your x. So whatever your x is, if you're going this way, you're going to add that number, and if you're going that way, you're going to subtract. Okay? Now, for y, you have up and down, okay? So if you go up, you're going higher on the y-axis. You are going to add to your y plus something. If you're going down, you are going to subtract. So it's y minus something. And that's kind of how you do it mathematically. And then your shapes and images are always going to be congruent, exactly the same. Okay, and if you graph it and you see it that way, then it doesn't work. You know, it doesn't look right, then you probably did something wrong. The other method that you can use to justify it or to check it, and actually this is probably the most common method, and I'm going to be really honest, this is the way that I've always done when I was in school, always did translations. In this situation, you just move. So if you're going 3 units right and 3 units down, you start at that point, you're going 3 right, 3 down, 3 right, 3 down, 3 right, 3 down, and you just count them. It kind of falls that like the example of rise over run. So this is probably the most popular method. Either method is fine, but you might want to do both to check it. You know, if you notice that it doesn't quite look right doing it mathematically, then maybe go back and look at this. Or if you do this and it doesn't look quite right counting them, then go back and do it mathematically and see where you might have made your mistake. Okay? So what I would like you to do is I would like you to do number 4. Now, I don't care how you do number 4. You can do it mathematically, or you could do it pictorially, drawing it, you know. It doesn't make a difference to me. Draw a coordinate plane and do it. But I want you to do number 4, and I want to know what the ordered pairs are for the new figure A, B, C, ABC. Okay? Okay, so I did it mathematically. If it's 4 units left and 2 units up, and you're using the coordinates there, it's going to be A is going to be a -6, 3. So, let's see. So if you went, you went from -2 and you went 4 units left. So that's 1. So that's -3, -4, -5, -6. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So right there. Okay. And then, but then you have to also go 2 units up. So that's 1, 2. So that's going to be right here. So your new point would be right here. Okay. And that's that -6, 3. So that's kind of what you do to figure that out. And then the next point, and I'm not going to, the time, I'm not going to walk through how the up and down for each one. But B then would be -2, 7. And C would be -3, 4. Boy, it's hard to write with this mouse. -3, 4. Those would be your 3 points. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't draw them. I did them mathematically. So I just added and or subtracted to get my new point. So if A here was -2 and I want to go to the left 4, I went -2 minus 4 equals a -6, because this becomes plus a negative. And then 3, the point 3, we were going up 3, so it's 3 plus 2. Was it 3? Oh no, I'm sorry, it's not 3. I'm looking at the point down below. I'm like, oh, that's not right. The point was right here, 1, so it's 1 plus 2, and that then equaled 3. Okay? So that's how I did it mathematically. Again, it doesn't make a difference which way you do it, as long as you do it, the method that you use and choose works best for you, and you're getting the correct answer. If you're choosing it and then you're not getting the right answer, then you need to do a new method or figure out where you're making your mistakes. Number 3 is how they show what I just did in that example mathematically. So what they have here is they're saying, okay, you have these vertices, okay, these are your points, and you're going to go 4 left and 6 up. Well, if you go left, that means -4. And if you go up, that means +6. And then you just add that to, or subtract that from your value, okay? So you start with your point, you have 1 minus 4. Well, 1 minus 4 is a -3, because that then becomes plus a -4. And then -2 plus 6, that is 4. So that becomes your new point. And then you have your translation, okay? So for number 5 here, I would like you to pause your computer, and I would like you to do number 5, and I think I want you to try to do number 5 mathematically, because I do think that probably would be the best for you. So pause your computer, do number 5, and then come back. Okay, so for number 5, A is a -2 minus 1, and then that equals, because that then becomes plus a -3. And then your y coordinate was a can't see my writing, -2 plus 2, so that equals 0. So my point for A is -3, 0. Okay. B is 0. You started at 0 minus 1 equals -1. And then your y was 2, and you're adding 2 to it, and that equals 4. So my point for B is now going to be a -1, 4. And then C is 3 plus a -1, 3 plus a -1, or 3, well, it's really 3 minus 1, but I made it 3 plus a -1. So it started out, I'm sorry, I jumped that gun a little bit. 3 minus 1 is 3 plus a -1. And that then equals 2. And then 0 plus 2 equals 2. So your point then is 2, 2. Now, you could check it if you wanted to check it. So like on this graph, if we did it here, if we did the triangle, you could plot the points of this original triangle. So it would be here, and then here, and then here. That would be your original points of your triangle. Now I'm not going to be able to do this exactly straight because I'm doing it with the mouse, but that's pretty good. And then if you do your translation, I'm just going to pick a different color. I don't want to pick that. We'll pick green. Okay, and then my translation, you have to go left 4 and up 6. So left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, I think I'm reading the wrong one. I'm sorry. You have to go 1. I'm sorry, 1 left and 2 up. I was looking at the other one. I'm like, that's not right. That's not what I did. 1 left and 2 up ends up being right here on that, where that point B is. And then 1 left and 2 up ends up being right here on -3, 0. And then 1 left and 2 up ends up being 2, 2, right there. And then there is your translated triangle. So you can see sometimes having that graph paper probably helps you out. So if you got that right, you can move on. If not, you really should rewatch this video, because I want to make sure that you have an understanding of what you're doing, okay? So when you finish this then, what I would like you to do is I would like you to do practice problems number 11, number 13, and then on the next page, I would like you to do 17 and 19. Okay, working both ways, describing it and also doing it. Okay.